Hi everybody, happy Tuesday and welcome to another episode of this. So how you doing? Is everybody doing okay? I'm doing fine. I survived the first convention in 2 years. Doing good. It was a fun convention. Did everybody else have a nice weekend? It's Tuesday, so I feel much better. Yesterday I could have spent the entire day sleeping and eating just vegetables. You know, when you do those conventions, you end up eating just garbage food. And I start really feeling my age when I'm sleep deprived and eating like French fries all the time. So, speaking of French fries, I realize I look like I'm about to sell you French fries in this shirt. My mom gave it to me, but it's so soft. It feels so good. So, what I want to talk about today is last week on the Ghostwriters podcast, my co-host Matt Wilderson mentioned that his watch list for Halloween movies is very long because he starts in September. And I thought about this and I got very angry with myself. You see, I'm a person who tends to slavishly adhere to certain traditions, to certain holiday traditions. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing in my book. I love a lot of holiday traditions. That's part of the fun of it. But it honestly never occurred to me to start my Halloween movie watching in September. Like, I'll start decorating for Halloween in September. There's nothing going on. School starts in September. It's starting to pick up. There's 2 birthdays in this house in September. There's another birthday in October. And there's just really kind of nothing else going on. So I'll decorate for Halloween, but I won't start watching the Halloween movies until October. And I don't know what's wrong with me. So I kind of got in a bad mood about it because it's like, stupid, stupid, stupid. But we've decided to fix it. I think it also has something to do with just being a horror fan in general and having to watch movies for the Ghostwriters anyway. There's a lot of horror movies going through this house no matter what. But having said that, you know, my husband likes horror movies, but not to the extent that I do. I am the scary movie person in this house. And my kids have always been very lukewarm about it. They're not terribly interested in horror movies. And they're not terribly interested in Halloween, which makes me nuts. So I happened to be talking to my youngest son recently, and he was talking about, he was watching a YouTube video where somebody was telling a story of watching a scary movie and how they were laughing at it, how they thought it was funny. And my son was very offended by this, very horrified. Why would you laugh at that? And I had to explain to him that horror comedy is a thing, that you can insert comedy into these horrific situations, into these awful stories, and it actually works sometimes. So he was very intrigued by this, and he was like, well, what movies are like that? So it got me thinking, all right, by the time Halloween comes around this year, my kids will be 14 and 11. Their birthdays have not come around just yet, but by the time Halloween comes, 14 and 11. So I think it's time to start inviting them a little more into Halloween movie watching night. So I've made a list, and this list has 50 movies on it. Now, considering what we do, considering, you know, A Case for Classics comes back tomorrow. It starts back this week. So that'll mean I'm back to 2 podcasts a week, 1 of these videos a week, and writing and taking care of the house and the kids on top of that. We can only probably get to 2 or 3 movies a week. Maybe more, depending on if we have nothing to do that weekend, because we do love a couch binge in this house. But I don't know if we'll be able to get to all 50 of these movies. We're going to try, but I don't know. The point is they're there to choose from. I'm going to let the boys, for the most part, pick the movies. And on this list, it specifies good for the whole family or mom and dad only, because some of these my kids cannot watch. I'm not going to specify in this video as I'm reading you this list whether I put good for the whole family or mom and dad only, just because I don't want to open myself up to too much judgment. Just because as a lifelong fan, as someone whose movie habits weren't necessarily monitored when I was a kid, I think what I say my kids can't watch is definitely more strict than what I experience as a child, but it might be more lenient than some. So I don't really want to open myself up to judgment. Oh, you're a bad mother. I mean, it can be anything these days. Mommy shaming is a big thing. So I want to read you the list, and it changes up a little bit every year. But again, just because horror movies are a big thing in this house, they're constantly being watched. Like, I just realized that I didn't put Cronenberg's The Fly on this list. And it was like, but I did just watch it not that long ago. And there's actually a couple movies on here. I just watched it not that long ago, but they have to be on the Halloween list. So, let's get started. The first on this list is Dr. Giggles. Now, full disclosure, this is one that I said is good for the whole family. Just because this is one of those movies, one of those weird slasher movies that is so off the wall bonkers that I think, you know, it does have that horror comedy part of it. And I think my kids are both smart enough and mature enough to get that they would laugh like my husband and I do. I think Dr. Giggles is a great movie. Great and bad at the same time. Like, I would have put The Dentist. Do you remember The Dentist with, is it Corbin Burnson who's the doctor? I can't remember. But I honestly, like, my kids are scared of the dentist anyway. And we have a great dentist. Our dentist is the most gentle, easygoing person on the planet, and my kids are still scared of him. So no way I'm showing them The Dentist. But Dr. Giggles, I think, will work. Second on the list, American Gothic. This is one of those, I had to buy it from, I actually got it at a convention from one of those stands that does VHS to DVD conversions themselves. And this movie, full disclosure, no, my kids can't watch this one. It's kind of like the Scary Hillbilly family thing. Kind of, but not, but kind of. It's like icky people doing crazy shit. If you haven't seen it, see if you can find it, because it is worth your time to watch. Bonkers fucking movie. Beetlejuice, of course. Of course, it has to be on the list. Mars Attacks. Now, my husband asked to have this one put on the list because it's a funny movie. There's not a whole lot of Tim Burton on here. I realize I just read 2 in a row, but I think this is a fun movie. I think this is a fun kind of monster movie, and I don't know if my kids have seen it yet. I don't think they have. I think they'll enjoy it because it is a funny movie. It's just off the walls crazy. Candyman, definitely not okay for the kids, but I love this movie. I haven't watched the new one yet, but I am looking forward to it. Yeah, no hate. I love the original. I love Tony Todd's voice as the Candyman. Love it. Pumpkinhead. This is, as a West Virginian, as an Appalachian person, this movie hits home for me. What is it you wanted, Harley? I can't help but love this movie. And my kids actually have seen this one before, and they like it too. Carrie. Carrie is a great one. The original, the Brian De Palma one. Despite the ridiculousness in the locker room, the totally unrealistic scene in the beginning, this is a great movie, and I love it, and my kids absolutely cannot watch it. Rosemary's Baby. I've talked before about feeling yucky about Roman Polanski, but this movie is so good. And I have to say, the book by Ira Levin is an excellent book, and actually the movie, for the most part, is faithful to the book. There are a few little things, like the fact that, you know, they cast Mia Farrow as Rosemary, and Mia Farrow is a very slight, gaunt, you know, she was the poster child of what a lot of people when I was a kid thought vegetarians looked like. Just kind of pale and like she doesn't eat much. And in the book, Rosemary, she's a farm girl. And she's very, you know, she's robust and strong. And that's how she's able to get through the pain and the kind of parasitic tortures she has to go through carrying Satan's baby. But I like this movie. I think this movie's really great. I also think the visuals from the time period are stunning in this movie. Bad Moon. Resident Werewolf fan, there's got to be some. Now, Bad Moon is on here. There's a bad scene at the beginning with some very intense humping and of tent, and I absolutely am not ashamed that I have put throw pillows in front of my kids' faces during scenes like this. But this is a fun movie. This is a fun werewolf movie. I usually put The Howling on this list because I love The Howling, but literally I watched it like 2 weeks ago. It's one of my favorite movies. And it's not going to make it on the list because of that scene. The claymation werewolves doing it missionary style scene. Like, if ever doggy style was thematically appropriate, this was it. So, but I think I like The Howling better than An American Werewolf in London. Even though I love An American Werewolf in London, I think I like The Howling better. But I'm only subjecting my kids to 2 werewolf movies in this, just because I'm the fan, them not so much. So yes, Bad Moon. Next, House. House is good for the whole family. This is a great movie. I know I've talked about it all the time. I know I've teased that I might do a whole video on that movie, and I still might, honestly. It's everything you love about a haunted house movie, about a portal house movie. Off the walls crazy. Love it. I love this movie. Silver Bullet, of course. This is a movie that's totally safe for kids. And again, I've talked about this movie. I know the creature effects tend to look like a bear, but I also think this transformation scene is one of the best transformation scenes on in a werewolf movie. It is one of the best. And I just like the movie. So what's next? Legend of Hell House. Yeah, this is like the haunted house movie. It's the haunted house book. It's the haunted house movie for me. Like, I know Shirley Jackson and all of that. Like, I get it. But Matheson's Hell House, for me, does it. And Legend of Hell House, this is a good movie. Like, again, they have to smooth over some things from the book that I think made people clutch their pearls a little too much. But this is a very good movie. And it aged well. Sleepy Hollow, another Tim Burton movie. But my kids love this one. This is one my kids like to watch every year, so it has to make it to the list. I like it too. I thought we would give Pan's Labyrinth a try this year. This movie, it would have to be on a weekend because it is a long movie, but this is one of those movies, there's so much going on. You've got the fantastical and then you've got the reality, and both are equally horrible. And, well, maybe not equally. Honestly, the reality is worse in Pan's Labyrinth. But Guillermo del Toro with the creature effects always does it for me. And I think my kids would enjoy this one. I do worry about the Pale Man scene when he eats that fairy. That part, for some odd reason, has always bothered me. That's a part that's kind of like, ugh. I think that one might upset my kids, but, I mean, I'll talk to them about it before, if they should choose it off the list, I'll say, okay, so this one, we have to have a talk. And if they decide against it, that's fine. I'll watch it myself. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. No, this is a mom and dad only movie. Because, of course, this movie is... Again, it's iconic, but it holds up. It stands up. It's still a great movie. Stir of Echoes, another Matheson movie. I think Kevin Bacon is great in this part. I think the story is great. It's a little bit different from the story, the Matheson story, but I think this is a really good movie. There is one scene in it that is explicitly not okay for kids, but the whole thing of what is causing the haunting, I don't know. I don't think my kids should watch this one, but it is a fantastic movie. The Omen, the original The Omen. I love this movie. I can't help it. It doesn't get talked about a lot. I don't feel like it ever makes a lot of lists, but this is a great movie. Love it. Candyman 2. I'm usually not a huge fan of sequels. Not enough to put them on my Halloween list. I'll sit and watch a sequel. Like, I think I've seen all of the Children of the Corn movies just because they keep getting funnier. They're so bad that they're funny. Candyman 2 isn't like that. I actually think, so we changed location from the first one. The first one is at Cabrini Green, which is, what is it, Chicago? I think it's Chicago. Candyman 2 takes place in New Orleans around Mardi Gras. And there's something about the setting. And Tony Todd is still so on point with this. I really think this is a strong movie for a sequel. So it's going to make the list. Reanimator. No, kids. No. But fantastic movie. Probably one of my top 10 favorites, of course. They Live. Yeah. I love this movie. That 5-minute fight sequence, amazing. Roddy Piper and Keith David together, they're such an amazing team of kind of scrappy blue-collar heroes that I really love it. I think this movie is amazing. A Nightmare on Elm Street, classic, wonderful, holds up, deserves a place on any Halloween list. April Fool's Day. Now, I get it's about another special day on the calendar, but it's a great slasher movie. If you've seen it, you know why I'm doing this. It's a great slasher movie. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those 80s movies that was just fun. You know, they're delivering a horror movie to you with a smirk on their face, and you have a great time watching it. Jaws. My oldest son and I both adore this movie. Like, this is probably one of his favorite movies ever. It's definitely one of my favorite movies ever. We like to cuddle up and make snacks and watch this movie together. Rose Red. Now, this is a miniseries. It's a Stephen King miniseries. On DVD, it comes in 2 parts. So one night we would watch the first part, and the next night we would watch the second part. Now, this is kind of Stephen King's take on the massive haunted mansion, the grand mansion with bad memories, okay? And it is definitely not the best. I think The Shining was his better foray into big haunted places, but Rose Red, it has that all that stuff that I love, you know, the big Gothic mansion, it's a lot like Shirley Jackson and Matheson's works, where it's got the paranormal investigators, it's got the psychics and stuff going in there and trying to feel what's going on, trying to get definitive proof of an afterlife. And again, it's not the best, but I do like it, and it's safe for the whole family. It is okay for kids to watch. Not super young kids, but 11 and 14, they're going to be fine. Creepshow, the movie. Love this movie. My kids love this movie. They actually will sit and watch this one. It's a lot of fun. Love it. Split Second. Now, I don't think my kids would like this movie, even if it isn't a totally bad movie. Like, bad being like, you know, the content. But this movie is, I have to tell you, like, I have to admit, this isn't a great movie. The storytelling style is very sloppy. The way Rutger Hauer's character, Rutger Hauer, the way his character is in the beginning changes drastically to the end. But in my brain, it makes sense. So he's very kind of dour. He's a sour, serious kind of man. But by the end, he's giddy. He has found his mission, and he's actually laughing. And it's weird, but considering all that he's been through chasing this monster, it kind of makes sense. And also, it's a Halloween movie because he's eating chocolate throughout the whole thing. This is a man who lives on coffee and chocolate, and I don't know why, but something about watching him eat these squishy chocolates makes me think of Halloween. So it's on the list. The Wolfman. I'm going to go with both versions on this. I'm going to go ahead and do that one. The one with Claude Rains and Lon Chaney Jr., it's a necessary movie for me as a werewolf fan. And then the one with Anthony Hopkins and Benicio del Toro. I liked this movie. I continue to like this movie. I thought it was a great take on a Universal classic and updating it. I thought the way they designed the Wolfman, and he was a wolf man, and there was very much respect paid to the original in the creature design. I liked this movie. I don't know why people talk so much shit about it. Brainscan. This is such a 90s movie, and I love it so much. The Trickster. I love this movie. It will always be on the list. I always watch it around Halloween. Tales from the Darkside. Again, I love this movie. This one is not so much okay for the kids. But this is the one, it's got the story of the gargoyle. And there just aren't enough stories about haunted gargoyles or monster gargoyles, or I can't say gargoyles. Oh my god, am I okay? I love this one with Deborah Harry in the beginning as the witch getting ready to cook the little boy. It's a lot of fun. Deepstar Six. Again, this is one I talk about all the time, but I love a good undersea horror and giant rampaging crab monster. Come on. It's simple, it's fun, it's everything you need it to be at that time of year. Where am I at? Pet Semetary. What do I have to say? This is the original. We're not going to talk about the remake. The original, great movie. It is a legitimately fantastic movie based on a legitimately fantastic book. In this gigantic backlist that Stephen King has, I really think Pet Semetary is one that really stands out. And it's one of his most brutal books. And I think they did a really good job with the movie. I will watch this movie anytime it's on TV. Thinner. Well, we're back to Stephen King. Thinner's a great movie. I think Thinner was one of the Richard Bachman books. I think. I could be wrong. I'm sorry. But this movie is... They've messed up so many of Stephen King's story by adapting it for screen. They've messed up so many. And I really don't think they did with this one. I really think the few things that they changed didn't mess it up. It made it palatable for the screen. You know, I think it's a fantastic movie. Predator. This is a family-friendly monster movie. Like, I know people want to get all caught up because it is an alien being, but that's a monster movie. That is a monster movie. It even has the big reveal of the monster taking its mask off. My kids actually already like this movie. It's scary, it's intense, but it's also kind of tongue-in-cheeky. I love this movie. The Mist. Back to Stephen King again. But this movie, one of the few times when the movie's better than the source story. This movie, definitely my kids can't watch it, but it's a good movie. Blessed. So I think I've talked about this one in previous videos, but Blessed is a movie. It's kind of a revamp of Rosemary's Baby, but with more technology. It's got Heather Graham in it and James Purefoy, and it's a totally good movie. Like, a totally good movie. Evil Dead, because of course. Fright Night, the original. This is my favorite vampire movie. Hands down. I get yelled at for it, but this is my favorite vampire movie. I love this one. Because it's my favorite, and because so much of it isn't bad, there is one scene in the beginning where, throw a pillow in front of the kids' faces, and then we're good. I can't get over how much I love this movie, how much I love the effects, like the fact that these vampires turn fucking ugly when they go into monster mode. That vampire bat is still, a while ago, I can't remember where I saw it. It might have been Etsy, but someone made that vampire bat. And it was like $400, and you could hang it from your ceiling. I wanted this vampire bat so bad to put in my writing room because I love that creature design. The Exorcist, because of course, and hell no, my kids are not watching that one, but it's a great movie. Now, Exorcist the beginning is the one with Stellan Skarsgård in it, where he's a young Father Merrin in Africa doing battle with Pazuzu. And, again, I think this is a good movie. It's not great, but considering the season, I think it's a good addition to a Halloween list. If you've never seen it, I think it's worth your time. I really do. Don't go in and expecting, like, a cinematic masterpiece, but it is a good movie. The Burbs. Of course. My kids love this movie, and my husband and I love this movie. This is a movie where, quotes from it are thrown around this house constantly. It's a great movie. Club Dread. I can't remember the name of the comedy troupe that puts it together. God damn it. Something Lizard. The guys who made Super Troopers, and Beer Fest, they made their own kind of slasher movie. Now this one is, I think, the comedy troupe, again, I can't remember their name. I think they're really hit or miss. Some of their movies have been absolute garbage, but some of them, like, I don't think younger generations would like their stuff because it is very male centric. It's very much for the male view. But there's a type of ridiculousness to their comedy that I grew up being able to look through it. Not that that should be an excuse for it to be okay, but I have already been programmed a certain way. The damage has already been done, I suppose. And I like some of their movies. Like, I think Beer Fest is a funny movie. I think Super Troopers is a funny movie. Club Dread, it's not a great movie, and it's not one of their best. It's not a super funny movie, but for a fast-paced, nonsensical slasher, I think it's okay. I think it's worth your time. Going and knowing it's made by the guys who made Super Troopers. Dead Alive, because of course. Why not? I love this movie. My kids can't watch it yet, but a great movie. I kind of can't wait until they can watch it because I love this movie. How could you not? How could you not? Zombies versus the Lawn Mower. Mr. Brooks. Now, I found this choice of role for Kevin Costner very surprising and came away from it stunned by how good this movie is. Kevin Costner and William Hurt are so good in this movie. And there's a kill at the end of this movie that is actually satisfying. You actually are rooting for the bad guy, which was a thing for a while where, you wanted to empathize with the villain. And you don't necessarily empathize with the villain in this one. There just happens to be a person who's such a gigantic pain in the ass in this movie that you love that they eventually get theirs at the end. It's a very good movie. John Carpenter's Vampires. I love this movie. I love vampires, but sometimes vampire movies can be tedious. And I've talked before that I don't love vampire swarms. But there's something about this one where we're talking about nests and masters where you don't have to make too much of a fuss over the nest guys. These slayers make quick work of the nests. It's the masters that are the problem. And there's something about that kind of works for me. And I love this movie. Army of Darkness, because of course. My kids love this movie because of course. I loved this movie as a kid. Now, Nothing But Trouble. I don't know that this one is necessarily horror, but there are things about it, like this movie creeps my husband out really bad. And I don't think we've ever had the kids sit through it, but they can't. They're definitely old enough they can sit through this movie. But it's got, John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, Chevy Chase, Demi Moore. It's funny and it's weird, but it's good. And I think, if you are lighthearted about horror, I think this one could be on your Halloween list. If you've never seen it, please watch it. It's a great movie. Warlock. Julian Sands. But this movie is just perfect low-budget cheese. I love this movie. This is one where I've seen all the sequels, and they just keep getting funnier and weirder the longer down you go. But the original always, I think it stands up, considering there are some effects where you're like, oh, someone did that with a crayon. But it's a good movie. Shaun of the Dead. This is the movie that immediately popped into my head when my youngest son was talking about horror comedy not being appropriate. And it's like, kid, no, you have to watch Shaun of the Dead. So that is on this list for that specific reason. Hotel Transylvania. Full disclosure, it's on here for my kids. My kids love this movie, and I'm not turning my nose up at it. I like this movie. I think this movie's really cute and really funny. The Wolfman with his dozens and dozens of pups is funny. And then last on the list is Hot Fuzz. I got to thinking about how much I like Shaun of the Dead, And then it was like, well, Hot Fuzz, doesn't belong on the Halloween list. But the more I thought about it, with the sort of cultish people who are controlling the town, with the sort of cozy English village vibe going for it, for some odd reason in my mind, it works for Halloween. I totally understand if it's not for you for Halloween, but it's on my list, and that's it. That's the last Halloween movie on the list. I hope we get to them all. I don't know if we will, but I really hope my kids are amenable to opening their minds to the various degrees of horror that are out there. It's not all, extreme. It's not all horrible stuff that they can't take. There's a lot of fun to be had in horror, even the stuff that's taking itself seriously. So I'm telling you right now, I fully expect to see your lists. Tag me where you list them or put them below in the comments. So these will all be down below in the description box, but have fun. Tomorrow is September 1st, and I will start watching our movies this week. So happy fall, happy Tuesday, and I hope the world is treating you well and that everything is going fine for you. And I will see you next week. Please remote work.